Welcome back to another episode. Just want to go give a friendly reminder to like, comment, and subscribe. The support is greatly appreciated. Got that out, so I had to start over this time. But what we're going to do today is talk about kind of interesting weekend. The Michigan Purdue game. For how that was going to go down, but nonetheless, got the W. Even though it was a little ugly, a little unconventional, especially playing. How things look against Purdue. And then, yeah, it's on the Lions. For a 3-point loss, they pretty much did everything in their control to give that game away. That's probably the worst I've seen them play in like all three phases of the game, especially special teams. Getting kicked, pump or field goal blocked and giving them a lot of yards on kick return. But yeah, we'll dive into both of those games and just kind of talk about ramifications and what things look like as we get later into the season in both the respective seasons with Michigan and the Lions. But yeah, with that being said, E, I'll kick it over to you to kind of see your thoughts are on how the game went against Purdue this past weekend.
Yeah, I would say just a ugly win. Very, very hard to watch, really. Just kind of one of those games where I never truly really thought we were going to lose. It's just kind of just disappointed at how sluggish we looked, disappointed at the missed opportunities, and just wanting to knowing what we have in front of us as far as if you include that game, let's say the whole month of November, not the first showing you want to have coming out the gate, just looking so flat and bad versus a team that truth be told has no business in the same ballpark as you. In a game that a team that I feel like we should be coming in here talking about a 35-10 type win, 28-10 type win, worst case.
Yeah, I
And,
agree.
and so it just overall, I don't want to say alarming, but definitely a couple of bells rang, a couple of flags popped up for me where it's just like, if we're gonna, I think we could play similar to that degree versus the next two opponents and probably get the victory. But in order to get where we want to, and that's beating Ohio, making it to the college football playoff, we're going to need to play far better. A couple of things that point out to me just as far as this game is just um, we missed Hayes. Big Hayes, Hayes is a big loss. The linebacker core was beat up, and just kind of I think we begin to miss some of the missing pieces that we've had that may have been over. We kind of found ways to overcome in the short term, but in the long term, maybe those holes are beginning to become gaseous, and so kind of just something to recalibrate heading into this bye week, and hopefully we can kind of
Yeah.
get a couple people healthy or get a better status on some folks, and hit the ground running with a couple of games left here.
Yeah, like you said, it's not pretty. Um, it's a weird game. I think, Purdue, you said it, kind of before we jumped on, like not much to lose. 2-7, 0-6 in the Big Ten. They're out there playing two quarterbacks. And I think, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it just really came down to them linebackers not being in, losing Barham, that early in the game. Shout out Derek Moore, though. A couple big sacks. I think it's his third straight game with two sacks as well. He's right. So he's definitely starting to become the player that we thought he could be, which is, good to see. But yeah, you just kind of, I mean, I think really for like got to make some plays on defense. He definitely made a couple plays, and Jordan Marshall just kind of put the offense on his back, and was able to finish him off and get out of there with a closer W than we expected. But yeah, and I think I said it, and I don't know. It's funny because, like I said, I almost called this game a loss a couple times on accident just because of how weird it was and how like oddly close it was.
Yeah.
But like, once again, you're kind of talking about this game like that Oklahoma game where it's like, yeah, about 4 or 5 plays from, in this case, winning like 35 to, 16, something like that. Um, so you kind of, like you say, there is some concern as to like how things just really are looking inconsistent still, and it's not all that pretty. You got these injuries piling up on top of that, which is having a lot of younger guys that may not be totally ready to play, but are, getting some good reps, but just not playing all that well. And yeah, that's just kind of adding to the pot of the injuries that we've already kind of had with like Rod Moore being out and just some of these tight ends being banged up and it's like yeah, I mean Hayes is
Evans
like his
moved on
second
the
time out
line. Before we hopped in a year that tackle that's supposed to be a freshman that's supposed to play a lot.
towards
So I think it was
towards
penciled in as a
ACL.
starter. Um,
Yeah, possible.
yeah, so I agree, and we talked about you just mentioned how we've kind of called this a loss or mistake. Kind of if we don't believe in moral victories, I know that. But if there's ever such thing as a moral loss, I would say that's what this was. It's like we went
Hmm.
in, we won it, but I don't feel good about nothing. I don't feel
Yeah,
um, you know, it's been such a roller coaster. I'm trying to spitball, but let's say like Arizona State off the game, off the rip, we were feeling good about it. Oklahoma lost. Central Michigan, probably the best performance we've had all year. Um, was like Wisconsin, and we went and lost to USC, and it's just an up and down, up and down, up and down.
yeah,
Real terrainy season, and I would have thought that heading off the bigger game versus State, getting that rivalry out of your system, getting whatever, kind of with a clear path headed forward for the month of November, we would have had a clear path moving forward as far as strategically that offense getting better week over week, the defense getting better week over week, but we're getting defense at least getting robbed through injuries, and then offense just doesn't seem to be clicking all the time. We mentioned Bryce and just kind of the ups and downs of a young quarterback and him missing some throws and open receivers in end zone. The receivers not helping out from time to time, dropping wide open balls. Uh, just maybe I think it was McCulley in the end zone on the deep ball. You know, could it have potentially been a better pass? Yes. Do I really think that receiver should have caught it? I do. Do you know?
Smiles dropped another one.
Yeah, Samaj dropped another one. So I think just it's kind of
Pat
a
dropped
funky
two.
thing. We don't really have. I think we don't really have like a go-to guy at receiver. Marsh is becoming that or became that, but I think we weren't getting him involved in the game. So I think we are just kind of sputtering.
Yeah.
And I think we have a couple of weeks to get that shit right,
Get that
and
shit
I do
right.
think we can get it right. But it's a matter of it's looking now like we are going to have to, instead of having a very solid game, would have taken, let's say, Ohio into the deep water, we're going to have a phenomenal game and take them into the deep water. We're going to have to um, play our asses off, play better than we played all year, make plays that we haven't played all year. So I would have liked to have a couple of those plays made leading into that. But I think a much needed break coming up. I think
Yeah.
um, and I'm not ready to cast them out. I think we've still got all of the pieces to go and get it. It's just this missed opportunities are need to not happen versus the bigger teams. And I think we are skating by
Hmm.
with playing these lesser opponents and not playing our best games. So, you gotta
Yeah.
know you gotta start to hit your stride if you're gonna peak and
Yeah.
end of this month here.
I think the positive thing too is like this time last year, kind of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
I think they had that bye. I think they played Indiana t real tough. Like would have beat them if they had, just a tad bit better quarterback play. Ended up beating down Northwestern, like 50 something to like nothing, which at the time was like, they're able to score on offense, they're kind of like get some stuff going, figure some things out, and then went and shocked Ohio. You know, defense was playing a lot better. Like I feel like, Martin, I think they talk about Martin doing out to simplify some stuff just to like,
Yeah.
make players play more players and not be thinking so much. So hopefully they can kind of replicate that to where you got Northwestern, which is not, they're not going to lay down. You got Maryland, another feisty, like middle tier Big Ten team that'll,
And it's real quick,
definitely
a
show you
Maryland team
up.
that I felt a lot. I mean, knock on wood, we got to beat them, but I felt a lot worse about that. Let's say 6, 8 weeks ago. I thought we might have a real fight to head in there. They just let go of their coach.
Yeah.
Things kind of,
It is lost by
they're in a
like
different
40
light than they
something
were
to
before. Yeah.
Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like they just, yeah, they don't, they're kind of like falling apart. I think they were up like 21 zip to Washington and lost by like three, something like that a couple weeks ago. So yeah, you got some opportunities here to clean some stuff up. I mean, and not, they ain't trying, you want to call it like dress rehearsal. These are obviously solid teams, but like this is really where you could come out after this bye, put together some solid victories, and get ready for the Ohio game coming around the corner.
Yeah, just build
So
some
yeah, you know, like
momentum. And I think we're saying the same thing, but just build some momentum and figure out exactly, you don't want to do this, but what can we do? What's our
yeah,
go-to 3rd and 8 pass play we got to get? What's those type of scenarios where we can just make shit happen at a higher consistent clip?
yeah,
Who is going to be the guy that can make a catch? Is it who is it? um, so no, I agree. And
yeah,
just
and to get that formula going, I think getting the lead, running that ball, and just letting that defense tee off, like that's really got to be. You would hope that's kind of what we start to see going into these next few weeks. After coming out the bye, that'd be ideal
yeah,
to help Bryce out to be more efficient in that pass game.
yep, and just kind of help it balance it all out. And then I think we'll be in a good spot here. And then heading over to our beloved Detroit Lions. Um, had a game on Sunday, a little Sunday at one game, which is unusual for us. We're usually in the prime time here, so uh, I guess I'll throw it over to you. Not our best footing, not our best showing. JJ came to town. Kind of, what are your thoughts on just that game? In is it a larger issue moving forward? Or do you think it was kind of a smaller blip in the radar? I guess is the kind of question I want to pose to you as far as the
Yeah,
cracks
I
in the
think
system we seem to have. Kind of how fast can we repair them, and how in your level of panic, or how do you feel about it?
I'm gonna call. I think I don't know. I think I'm gonna call it a. I think I'm gonna call it a blip in the radar. There are some things that they got to like look at, and I think well, no, I'll say this: the blip in the radar. What makes it tough is that it was a game that you just didn't really want to drop. It's a home division game.
Mm-hmm.
That's tough. Now you got to go play them on. Now you got to play the Vikings on Christmas in Minnesota. Um, I think for me, it's this. I think before we jumped on here, this is the first time there's just been inconsistent play in all three phases. We've seen like the offense do their thing and the defense not really show up. And being able to win games. We've seen a couple times this year where the defense has showed up and the offense has kind of been sputtering a little bit. And like the defense has kind of been taking turns, carrying, and we've seen games where they pretty much put it all together and played really well. I think this is one of those tough ones where like I think it was literally like sometimes special teams I feel like don't get talked about enough and how important it can be in a football game. But when you're giving up, returns past the 50, you're shortening the field, you got some vulnerable corners out there against some guys that are a lot better than what they saw against the Bucks. And they're just able to really like capitalize. You got to give JD credit. We know what he's capable of, but I came on here last week and was like, he's going to be rusty and probably not be all that well, do all that well. He didn't play great, but he did just enough to get the job done. But I think at the end of the day, we just beat ourselves, and it's kind of similar to what I just said with Michigan. You just kind of hope like there's some stuff that we got to clean up, and I kind of hope that from an offensive standpoint, they get back to the fundamentals as far as doing that. And I think Cam will gonna have them, ripping ready to go, doing so this week.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with you. I guess the other question I asked real quick is, for you, is it still Super Bowl or bust?
I don't really throw bust on the back of it. I do think we're gonna win it all. I just say I think we're gonna win it all.
And I would say, if you even come close to winning it all, nobody talks about a game like this. But I think it is one of those. I don't know. It just makes me wonder. It makes me, just like kind of the first game. It just makes me question, kind of, in the bigger like playoff type opponents. Are we going to get? Are there leaks and cracks in the system going to get exposed like they do randomly throughout the year? And I know we talked about this heading into the year, how this wasn't going to be no 15-2 type season, and we were going to have
Hmm.
probably some weeks like this. And I just want to, hopefully, we are finding ways to correct that and minimize those moving forward. And like you said, getting back to the basics is getting helping our offensive line out by getting back to the shotgun, helping our quarterback out by getting back to the shotgun, feeding both those running backs a little more equally.
Yeah.
Uh, Keeping JMO involved. He's just things like that. We just paid him, keeping him involved. He, just doing kind of keeping it all together in the cohesiveness is I think kind of the offensive big struggle is I think we are um when Gibbs is when I don't know I guess what was the game Gibbs had like the 70 when he had all those yards he had like the
The
70-yard touchdown
Bucks.
versus the Bucks. Yeah,
Yeah, yep.
I think when the offense is rolling like that, it looks phenomenal. But I think when offense is getting stuffed, I think it seems like we don't really have a good game plan as far as how to jumpstart things. And I think getting back, you said, it's back to the basics as far as when in doubt, just pound the rock.
Yeah,
Um, we were lost by 3 points in this game, and Golf had I think 38 passes, and we only had 20 rushes. I would have if that's probably a little more balanced, regardless of how the score looks. I think we eat into that lead a little bit quicker. We
yeah,
so I think just kind of I think all those kind of help. It's just kind of that's those are the things that I question as far as are we able to do that? And I don't want to say Super Bowl or bust, but I do think it is kind of like that where we have to strike while iron's hot. Let me say that. You're not always going to have this many good young players, this many, the right situation for all this good stuff. Um, and so that's the kind of the minor things that I'll say just regarding this game is we just looked unlike ourselves. We just didn't look, we looked kind
yeah,
of beat up. We looked kind of like we were going through the motions a little bit. And all that. And
yeah.
it
I
was
mean,
a 3 point loss, I mean, kind of
yeah,
let's be honest, a semi garbage time touchdown, but um, really was a three
yeah,
point loss.
two score game, and
Yeah,
2 minutes left. That's
yeah.
it was right there. But like, no, I mean, no, I see what you're saying, but it was right
But then
there. I
we
mean, I
push,
feel
but then
like
as soon as we push it down the field and not do 500 screens, we score immediately. So it's
right,
kind of interesting
yeah,
how that happens. Yeah,
it is weird, yeah. But it's one of them games where like you can literally, I can point to like that 2022 Panthers game. There's like a bad game we played in Chicago, like the year we went 12-5, like Hutch jumping off sides, kind of
yeah,
let Justin Fields run all over us. And then, I mean, you can kind of point to that game that we even had, earlier this year to start the season, where I think it was just kind of like, you took the caps to them. They had a good game plan. I think they kind of played us defensively how the Packers did, just kind of like really going at that interior a little bit. And granted, we're going to start to see that again. We're going to continue to see it until we can figure it out. But I think this will be a good opportunity to just like get back on track. Like, I don't see them playing like I think we played good on 2/3 of the phases of the last game. Like if we just don't get that kick blocked and don't give up, kickoff return going, past midfield and almost gave up one for a touchdown. I think it was just so uncharacteristic to where I'm just like, I think
yeah,
this is one of those blips in the radar, and I do feel like this is gonna kind of reset some things a little bit. It just kind of sucks to see him come out of a bye week so sluggish and just
for
like
sure.
not ready to
Yeah, that was the
go.
other
That
thing
was
I was
just
going to say. Is
weird.
coming off the bye week, you would hope to see a bit more pop, a little more creativity on
Yeah.
offense, just a little
They was
more.
getting after Halloween week. They had a little Halloween party. I don't know if that was.
Yeah, I seen that. um,
And I'm playing, but I don't.
I
Just
no,
you
I
know,
and I guess
Kirby Joseph had his Mario costume on
no, they all went
all
crazy. They all
weekend.
had a bunch of shit on. Um, no, it's funny to me when people go all out like that. But
Yeah,
no, just looking forward. I mean, obviously we don't want to skip too much of this, but we got the Eagles. I think at this point in the year, you begin to see kind of the importance of that. Like you said, you didn't want to lose a division game at home. Um, you already kind of shit the bed week one versus Green Bay. So now you got this one here. I think last year we had 0 division losses. Um, yeah,
yeah,
year before that, I want to say we one, two, maybe. But so
one or two.
I think you know, either way, two is baked in right now. So you got to have. I think that Packers game is going to be big time as far as just swinging the momentum because I don't want to go into that Christmas game and you got to have that shit because you shit the bed again on Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
And then you just talk about teams. I would say if the thing that does scare me is if teams have a semi blueprint of how to beat us, and that's pressure through the middle. Um, and we got kind of ran on a little bit this last game as well. But if that's pressure through the middle and running on us. I think there are a few teams that we have to go through in order to get to any type of playoff success that can easily
Yeah.
mimic that, and that one being the Eagles. Um, and so that kind of scares me as far as just if you look at the creme de la creme of where you got to go, there are some teams that could have a potential kryptonite on us if we aren't playing to our best. Um,
Yeah.
you know, so just kind of like you said, man, just get back to the basics on this. Um, we didn't
Yeah.
even
Because I
talk
think it's a
even text, but we didn't go out and get nobody in a trade deadline. It's hard to come across them old linemen in the trade deadline. I know that, but so I think our hands were semi tied when it came to that, and
yeah.
um, and now it's just kind of a waiting game. And where the hell is Frazier? That's what I was going to ask.
Coming off IR.
Yeah,
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 I just saw the injury report here that his 21-day clock. Um, he's designated to return from the pup list today. So got some help is on the way. I think that's what like and we'll start to talk about this Commanders game. We're just in a spot where we just gotta hold water. Think we can go 2-1 over these next 3 weeks. You got the Giants coming to town. You got a couple other matchups that are, that are like be like kind of like neck and neck, but I do feel like I think it's gonna be a good opportunity this week to get back on track. I think they're going weather the storm. There's some of these injuries, and you legit do like I'm looking right now. They got about 3 to 5 guys that could be getting by about mid-November that I think will help, for the long haul as well. And yeah, we're gonna see what happens. I mean, I think like I said, I think this previous game. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of chop it to an anomaly just because of how like I'm the problems on offense are real. They're a little concerning, especially St. Brown dropping passes and Montgomery fumbling. But I think this is some of them stuff we usually you see them kind of do uncharacteristic things like that. They usually come back and respond pretty well. Um, like I said, this is the first game I've ever seen where all three phases just out of sync. Like it just looked bad, and I don't think that'll. Campbell not gonna let that happen again. At least not back to back weeks.
yeah. No, I do think it's a time to get just get some things right on that, and I think you're right on all three phases. Usually, like what historically the defense would be dog shit, and the offense is
Yeah,
world. Uh,
Carey.
so I think I agree with you on that, and yeah, I think this week in the Giants week, we should be to handle business. I think now it's going to really come down to being able to. You really got to handle business versus Green Bay. I would love to see us take out the Eagles. Now, if we take out the Eagles, I'll probably come in here talking about the Super Bowl. That doesn't mean that either way. It doesn't mean if we lose to them, it doesn't mean it's not capable. But I think we need to have one of our best showings there. That's got to be like a measuring stick playoff type game for us. And I think same with that Green Bay. I think we have to, uh, as far as the Green Bay coming and showing, basically we still run this division. And as far as the Eagles, just trying to a temperature check as far as the Super Bowl champs. But no, say all that to say
Yeah,
we're getting ahead of ourselves. This Commanders game here isn't exactly what we thought it would be. We got the schedule. I think it's Jaden Daniels at a home versus us playoff rematch. They're kind of dead in the water for lack of a better term. 3-6 quarterback. Just had his arm due to question mark. It's a lot of you know a lot of unfortunate things happening around there. But with that being said, we're coming to town, hopefully hungry. I'm not overly worried about this game. I just think it's one of the games where I want to see us make a concerted effort to get to pound that rock, a concerted effort
yeah,
to play a clean game. No punt blocks, no field goals, touchbacks on everything. Just like you said, just try to get back to the basics as far as all that goes. And because we can't let a little thing kind of spiral into the next week.
right. Yeah.
Try to nip it in the bud.
And I think one thing too that gives me, and obviously we like you just hit it on the head. This is not gonna be the matchup that we expected it to be back in like June, July. Um, Also haven't lost back-to-back games since like 2022. So, I think this is a good, and I'm not gonna go out guaranteeing no victory or anything. Just saying, I feel like it's a good opportunity to where you're gonna be playing Marcus Mariota. Solid, was a great quarterback at some point. Solid backup. Definitely put the ball in harm's way. Well, definitely, huh?
I said in college.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no,
Yeah. Some above average years in what's it called? Wherever he was at, Tennessee. But no, I think they'll hang around. They'll make it interesting. But I just feel like it's going to be a team rolling in there. With our Lions just kind of determined to get that bad taste out of their mouth and try to do it. String together a couple dubs here and position ourselves a bit better for this playoff run.
yeah, no, I was actually gonna ask you. I hate to even say it. I was gonna ask you who that backup was on there. Marcus Mariota is one of them. I think serviceable. Not a guy you can sleep on. He can hit. He can hit a lot of
Hmm.
on the field. At
Yeah,
least one point in his life, a little bit mobile. So not a guy you can definitely sleep on. But I agree with you on that. I think we go in and try to stay extremely focused on like you said, just the fundamentals. I expect us to. I want to see us back up close to 200 rush yards in this game.
yeah,
Let's get both them boys busy. I know Gibbs. He's gonna want to. He thought he had all. What's the word I'm looking for? Like all offensive player of the year awards coming, and you can't have too many sub
yeah.
40
Good point.
games for that to happen. Montgomery, he don't. I'm no running backs want to fumble. You fumbled again. You already kind of lost a little bit of 50-50 share. Now you're down to like
60, 40, 70,
it's
65, 35.
70-30. Now you're fumbling. We might not see you again here soon. So I think these are the type of things where in his head, he knows he needs to have a big game. Like you said,
Yeah.
St. Brown. Where the hell's JMO been? We looking for JMO. He needs a 3 for 120 game.
It was
He,
good to see him get back on track last week. Good to see Laporta. Like Laporta took over the first drive. I saw that. I'm like, we about to.
yeah,
'Cause that's what be giving me like, having that confidence still is just like you just kind of turn it on like that.
for sure.
It's just a matter of, and I didn't want, didn't even talk about the penalties. Like it was just a weird game to where I'm just
He was. I
like
mean, definitely a couple. Yeah, like the intentional
assuming a lot of,
Jack Campbell one, and yeah, there's definitely yeah. But I think
but that's what
I
sucks
mean
though. Is it
we
starts to
know how
kind
we
of
feel about
just
that. Yeah, we know how we feel about
it
those
starts
type
to
of
snowball like when that I'm saying, them self-inflicted wounds, and then you start having bad calls by the refs, you know what I'm saying, and the other teams start making plays, like that's when it starts to just really go south, and that's how them mistakes on special teams, on offense and defense start to just kind of like uh mount.
for sure. And I think this is random. I actually meant to write this down. Obviously, JMO's such a big play guy that his season stats would fluctuate a lot, I imagine. But I looked earlier; he's only projected to have 700 yards this year, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah,
Considering
couple
that
goose eggs.
if you had asked me that first, or like probably 3 weeks in, we said that he could pass St. Brown this year for receiving yards.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd like to see them put him on some like crossing routes. Like I mean, I
some
know a lot
slants.
of it. Yeah, I know. Yeah, because I know a lot of it is like how they play him.
Mhm.
Like like just kind of basically just getting that back pedal as soon as they see him like, getting off the line. So like, and that also is hard when the O line is not, is having injuries and not blocking all that well. You don't really have a ton of time to, take some of those shots. So you could hope they can get them on some crossing routes, if they're in like man or, some slants,
Yeah,
I think he does pretty well catching, like he caught some hitches,
yeah. No,
in
I think
early
it should help
practice.
if they're scared to death and backpedaling on them. It that's we can just stop it anyway. Just stop. That's not
Like
advantageous to us
comebacks.
off the line anyway. We
Yeah,
don't.
and St. Brown, like I think he's gonna come back so motivated because he dropped some like because that's what it's supposed to be. Like you got J-Mo going deep, keeping that, opening it up, and St. Brown with the digs and the end routes, really just tearing them up in the middle of the field. Like we just need him to make a couple more of these plays that he usually does.
For sure. And do you remember? I don't know why this popped in my head, but do you remember back when we were doing preseason or maybe even like training camp type deal? We read that the offensive line was just getting beat up by the defense line, and we were wondering, is the D line that good or is the O line that bad? We kind of were wondering then. But that was the big story then was they were trying so hard to push the ball down the field to JMO that they were
Like trying purposely.
leaving golf in harm's way. And I think we've modified that a little bit. Now that seems like the correction is the O line is bad, so let's just screen them out to death. Let's just screen game to death. Um, I
Yeah.
I haven't fact checked this, but this guy that I seen a tweet on Twitter said that of our like 9 third down plays, we ran 5 screens. And
Oh,
there's like that's
wow.
literally like you like that's some shit that you do on Madden. You know, like you're not even.
Yeah.
So I say all that to say, I think we have to Johnny Morton, Dan Campbell, they have to get together and try to jumpstart this offense a little bit because defense is holding its own. I mean, defense is
Yeah, for sure.
beat up as they
They
are.
are.
They're doing well.
5 sacks last game, interception. I mean, I feel like in the new NFL, 24-27,
Yeah,
holding a team to that, a pick, 4 or 5 sacks, like you can't ask for much. If you're, I mean, Lions at one point was like they had the best, scoring most points in the league. So it's like if your defense can hold 24, 27 points,
yeah, you did
they,
enough
like you said, they did their thing, got ran on a little bit, but that's uncharacteristic too. Once again, like there is just a lot. I don't think anybody's run for Kansas City might have, some of these losses maybe, but they've really done a good job this season of keeping teams one-dimensional for the most part.
for sure. Yeah, no, I guess I'll jump out first with this score prediction here. I think this is going to be on paper look closer than it might be in real game life, but I'm gonna say just a solid dub for us. I'm gonna go 27-20.
Okay. I'm gonna go 31-17. I
Yeah,
think, I think a lot of these situations, you got guys injured all over the place. Mariota, starting good, get up and down the field a couple times, make some plays, but I think the defense will settle in. I think the offense will, get back in the groove and yeah, get things back tightened up with some reinforcements on the way. And we got a tough little stretch here. Yeah, the Eagles. And yeah, playing the Eagles next week in Philly and go from there.
yeah, for sure. No, I was looking forward. This is all you can ask for. You right in the hunt
Yeah, in
with
the mix.
yeah, right in the mix. Yeah. So no, I'm
We
with you.
got
Go
some.
Lions, and we'll be back at you
Yeah.
next week.
All right. Back at y'all later.